We are taking a quick look at Prep Sports today. And if you want to log in, you go to whatever the website domain is, and then it's just /wp-login.php. Same thing on regardless of what WordPress site it is, that should get you in. And then down here you put in your username and password. Make sure you have the link to this page and that username and password. Once you log in, then you get the dashboard here, and almost all of this here is without concern for you. You don't need to worry about any of the things that show up right here. On the left side, though, then we do have the menu items that are where you will control everything. A lot of these don't really matter too much to you all, and we're going to be getting rid of those before we actually launch this site, and that way it'll be cleaned up a little, make it a little simpler to be able to understand what you're needing to do. But for right now, they're all there, and it makes it a little bit more confusing, but we're just going to go over the things that matter most for you. If you go over here to all posts, you'll see that a good number of posts are already posted on here, and I'm not 100% sure whether these are ones that are actually intended to be on the website or whether this is just some leftover from work that we had done previously to be filling out the site. Regardless, we have some articles that are already on here, and they've been categorized already. We're going to add a new post right now and show how that's done, and then go in and edit another post as well. When it says enter title here, then you should enter the title there as the name would imply. And then it's important that you do this at the beginning of the process so that then it comes up with the right slug. That's the ending for the URL. If you don't do that at the beginning and you do all your other work and then add the title later, you might end up with a URL that's an ugly one that's /numbers. And so then you want to enter the title right away. If you don't, though, I'll show you how to change that here in a moment. So first we're just going to say new story about baseball, and then we have that there, and you can see that this permalink shows up. That's just the URL that it is that you can access this story on. It's not live yet, but that's where it will be when it is live. If you want to change this ending to something else, like let's say you didn't do this story, title right away at the beginning, or if you just want to change this URL anyway, you click edit, and you can change this to whatever you want about baseball and stuff, and now that's going to be its new URL. Now keep in mind, if you've already posted a story and then it had that old URL, then it's not going to automatically redirect to this new one necessarily. So you want to be careful about changing that. Normally that would just be done at the beginning of the process. So you get your title set, you come down here, this is where you add the text of the story. A lot of the time these stories are going to be written in Word or in some other system and then pasted into here, and that's fine. You do want to be a little bit careful. Sometimes those formatting things don't carry over correctly. Much of the time when you paste in from Word, then you're going to have an extra line break between each paragraph that you don't want there, and so you'll need to clean that up just a bit once it goes in there. But when you're typing in the story, then you have normal word processing features. And then it'll even come up with this little red underline stuff, probably. And you can make these things bold if you want to, just like you would with a normal word processing system, or you can italicize them. You can create a link with this little link button up here. When you create a link, then you can type in the URL directly, like that. You can also go searching for something, and so then let's say we're wanting to have a story about football. We probably have some article that already has that in there. We have all these articles that are already on the website, and also Zeit videos that are on the website. We say we want to link it right there, and then that way you don't have to go searching out that exact link. It's just ready for you. If you're wanting to make it so that this will open in a new tab, or if you're wanting to have a search feature that maybe is a little bit more traditional, you can do that here by clicking that settings icon. I'll show you again there. Make a link. You can search for it here, or you can click the settings button and search for it here as well. If you want it to open up in a new tab, click open link in new tab. We update that, and that link is there in place. If we ever want to go change it, we click on it again and we can click edit and make any changes to that link. And that's something you're going to want to do quite a bit of because it's good to connect all these articles and videos together. It increases the likelihood that people will stay on your site and view you as a valuable resource. We're going to copy this and paste it a few times. I don't want it as part of that though. And that way we can have a little bit more text to work with, so I can show you how image things work. If we want to add an image directly into the flow of the story, we're not talking about a featured image, we're not talking about anything to do with a gallery, just a normal image, then you just click where you're wanting it to go. let's make an extra paragraph here too. That will probably serve our purposes better. You click where you want it to go. Let's say you wanted it to be floating left here at the beginning. You click Add Media. You choose the photo. And this is probably a bit of an odd photo for a baseball story, but that's okay because we're just practicing right now. So we have this photo that floats over to the left, and you can then change it to being in the center or floating to the right. Now most of the time you're not going to want to go to the left. Let me show you why. When we come over here, we have our news story about baseball. Right now it's just black back there because we don't have a featured image. See how this cuts off in a weird way on that paragraph? That's because it's floating over to the left, and when you're dealing with something that's a print piece, then you can easily control how those things happen. It's much more difficult to control that in a good way when it comes to a website because everything needs to be responsive here. You could adjust the image size and make it so that it fits better, but most of the time a much easier option is going to be to float it over to the right. Then because of the nature of our language being a left to right language in English, then that means that you don't have to worry about it at all anymore, and it will always float around there just perfectly. If you come in and you decide, this is not really the size that we want, you can click Edit. Just click on the image, click the little pencil icon. You can change the size to one of these preset sizes. You can also make it a custom size where you just decide on your own what you want it to be. And you don't have to necessarily know exactly what different pixel amounts mean. You can just experiment and enter whatever numbers seem right. It's going to make this be the right ratio regardless. It does that automatically. You can add a caption here. Now when you add a caption right here, it only applies to this image in this one article when you add a caption here. And that is not the case though if you're going to be changing out the caption in here. Inside the Media Manager, then we have all these same sort of options. If you change the caption here right now, then it's a different caption. We'll get rid of all this stuff here in a moment. But you can see that then if we were to insert another version of this one, then it says a different caption. This one says a caption for the photo. But then the captions that are here will be there forever and in all places. Maybe not forever. In all places, though, I should say. And so that applies any other time that you come back to this image, that caption will still be there. And if you don't set some other specific caption, then that's the caption that's going to show up everywhere else on the site. But if you're only wanting it for this one time, then you can set the caption here. As you're doing this, anytime you click preview like we've already done, this story is not live on the site, it's just showing you how it will look. And you come down here and you say, that's exactly what I wanted, or that's not at all what I wanted, we need to fix it one way or the other, and then you can make whatever adjustments you need and keep on experimenting with it. Other functionality up here is fairly typical. We have some bulleted lists and numbered lists. You can center a line, left align, right align. You could do a block quote, but we don't normally recommend using that. Few other things you could do, probably not too important to you. Insert a slider. One thing you do want to pay attention to over here are the different heading levels here. You want to always go in order on your headings. That's for ADA purposes, and then also just for for SEO. It helps on both sides of things. So if you want to have some sort of heading at the beginning of your story, you don't go with H1 because that's already taken by the story title here. So you normally would go with H2, and so we have some heading for the story. And then if there was a subheading, the next time you'd use subheading even inside that part, then you'd use H3, H4, and so forth. But normally you're just going to stick with H2. Most of the time you won't need to go any lower than that. And we can see what that looks like over here. And we have some heading for the story. It didn't really fall together quite right. We say that's not quite what we want. We realize that we probably need to move this image a little. And it probably needs to go underneath there like that. Let's try that again. And we'll see if it looks better now. Oh yeah, there we go. Now it's starting to look a little bit better. So we work through this, we get all the text just right. A lot of the time it's just going to be text and no image inside here, but we have that as an example just in case. And then we keep on working down the page. And we have a place here for a shortened title. This is what's going to show up on the slider on the home page. And right now this is a really short title anyway. But if we wanted to make it even shorter and just say baseball, then we could do that. And whatever the shortened title is, that's what's going to show up on that slider automatically. Down here we have, let's see, it looks like we're missing our excerpt. let's add that in here. If there's ever anything that you see that's not on the screen that you think should be there, that you know has been there in the past, or something that's on there that you really don't want to be on there, you can adjust it up here in this section that says Screen Options. And then once you've published or saved a draft of that post type, of a post or a page or whatever it is, then it'll be that way on all the other posts or pages. We have Post Gallery here. That's not being used for the most part on Prep Sports as I understand it, but it's an available option. You can add images from here, select all the images you want to be on there, and then that will end up being a part of the post then. Beneath that though, we have the excerpt, and the excerpt is what's being used on the slider for the little text that falls beneath the shortened title. Let's go there now. And you see this little part down here in blue? That's where that excerpt comes from. And so if it's too, there's a limit to how many words it can be. So I don't remember the exact number of words right off. I guess it's probably even done in characters. But you have a limit to the number of words. Try to keep it to somewhere around there. It's really just a sentence, maybe 2 sentences at the most. So then we have some words about our article that are less than the entirety of the article. So it's just a quick little introduction. You don't need to do the ... at the end. That comes in automatically when you hit that text limit. And then that will show up there as soon as the story is published. We have the author down here, and it can be any of these people we have here. We're going to say that this one is George Becknell. And that's all of the stuff on the left side. Come up here to the right, we see that we have our publishing things. Let's wait just a moment before we get to that. Before we do that, let's look at categories. So we have a lot of categories on here right now. If you scroll down, you'll see it goes on quite a ways. But we're not using most of these, we don't think. Originally, we thought we were going to be using a lot of these other elements to show which school it would be a part of, which district, and so forth. But as it stands right now, then that's not a part of the way that we're operating, and we're really just worried about what sport does it come from and what state is it from. And then the state is always going to be the same, so there's not much complication there. We have the exclamation point here at the start of sport and at the start of state, just so we can make these show up in alphabetical order automatically. And so then that way we're just trying to get the most important things right up at the top, so you don't have to go scrolling for them. It's the only reason there's an exclamation point there. And you can select the parent or not. In this case, it won't really make a difference. But in general, it's a good practice to select both the parent and the child. Then we say this is a baseball story, and that means that's going to control where it shows up on the website. So then there is a baseball page here, and then we have baseball videos, and we have baseball articles. And then once we publish this will show up there as well. We also want to choose the state, and that's Louisiana. It's the only state we have right now. But the reason we want to keep this going right now, ideally that would be selected right now, is because that way when we get another state added in, then it's going to be ready to support that and ready to categorize those things appropriately. Of course, we could always come back in later on and just know before a certain date all stories are Louisiana, but it's easier this way. So if you would do that, it would be all the better. We have tags on here, but we're not really using tags on the website right now. There's a time in which tags function differently on WordPress than categories, and strictly speaking they still do, but not in a way that's going to be relevant for us. So you could add tags, but it doesn't do anything as it stands right now. We have the featured image here, and this is the image that's going to be showing up at the top here, where it's black right now. So we set a featured image, and you always want a featured image because it's also what shows up in the slider. It's also what shows up on this page here. You really just have to have a featured image to make it work well on this site. So we look around here and we say, we don't even have any baseball photos, so we'll just pick something. And so we have this guy here being interviewed, and then we're going to click preview. And now that's going to be a part of that background up top. And it fades in, and then you can see that it's in a static position, or a fixed position, so that then as we scroll up and down it stays in place. You want to choose a photo that can work well for this sort of context. If there's something highly specific you're trying to be focused in on, it might not work well, because depending on the screen size, then different amounts of that photo show up, right? So then it's important to make sure that you stick closely to something that can fit in those dimensions, and that's flexible enough that it can fit in those dimensions rather. If you need to make a change to it though, where it's not hitting quite the right spot, and so we say, I don't really need to see all of this lower part, I really just want to focus on the face or something, then you can click crop featured image, and we have a lot of different places that these images appear. So you have a lot of different options of where to be making changes. For the featured image here, for this part we're looking at right now, then it's top featured image. And then you can adjust that. Let's say you don't even want that guy with the microphone at all. You can just make it so that it's only the guy being interviewed. And we click Save Crop. And now it's saved. We close this. Now, we click Preview, and sometimes it doesn't change immediately. This time it did. Sometimes it'll take 2 clicks of preview to be able to see what the featured image is set as. But now we have that zoomed in right on that guy like we were wanting, and everything is starting to look pretty good. And that is everything except for our publishing options up here. You can save this as a draft if you're not ready to publish it yet, and we'll go ahead and do that here real quick. Doesn't mean it's live on the site, it just means that all this work that we've done is saved for a future time. And then you have your status here, and you could click it and make a change to whether it's published or not that way. Pending review is not something we're probably really going to utilize, so you don't need to worry about that. For the visibility, then public is normally what it's going to be. But you could also make it password protected and make it so that you could only look at this page or this post rather, if you have the right password. And you can make it private, where you have to be logged in on the website to be able to use it. Not logged in through Zype, logged in as an admin for WordPress. But normally it's going to be public, almost always for you all, I'm sure. You can look at revisions, and I'll open this up in a new tab. And you can see past versions of the work that we've done. A lot of these are autosaves, so that then every few minutes then it will keep a little bit of a save, but you can't count on that, so please still save regularly. Anytime you want to restore a version, you click Restore this revision, and then you can go back to where it was before. You can also make it so that then you don't publish immediately. You can make it so you publish sometime in the future, or you can set this as being something that happened sometime in the past. If you make it in the future, then it's going to say Schedule over here instead, and it will automatically post when you are ready to have it post. Okay? And if it's sometime in the past, then it'll just be a normal publishing situation. And then, if you want this to go live, and we are going to make this go live temporarily, then you click Publish, and that way we can see how this is going to appear on the home page. Now we have this here, and we have baseball and the excerpt beneath it, and then down here, I guess we don't have this on national news right now. We have that as a separate category. I'm not too sure that we have a difference between national news and other things, so we might just set this to show all of the stories right now. There was a category here, it turns out, that was for national news specifically, I guess. Not quite sure where that's pulling from, though. So then it is down here, though, under Louisiana. And then if we go to baseball, then because we categorized it as a baseball story, then it's the first story here, a new story about baseball. You can continue reading it. So everything should be good with that. And now we're going to move it to the trash, because we don't actually want this story to exist on the website. And anything that you put in the trash is still available, and it will stay there indefinitely until you come in here, and you can eventually click Delete Permanently. Once it's deleted permanently, it's fairly permanent. We do have a 90-day backup archive. Most of the time, it's not going to be worth trying to get into that to bring back a single story, but if it's something more complicated, we'll certainly be willing to help out with that. And then once it's deleted permanently, though, for the most part, it's just gone. So only do that if you really need to. You can keep as many things in trash as you need to, and that's fine too. Come over here if we're ever needing to make a change to one of these, and all the functionality is essentially the same. And you can see all this one has been all set up, and we have our shortened post title. Everything should be basically in order here, but if you ever want to make a change on the date, to the text, anything, as soon as you click update, then it is updated. And that is about all there is to that. If you ever need to add more categories for some reason, you can do so over here. And it's fairly simple to do. You can also set a parent for them, and that way you can categorize how they all fit together. But that won't come up too often, and if you need help with any of that, then you can let us know. We'll be happy to help out in any way that we can. That should be everything for post. We're going to go on down here and take a quick look at the Media Manager. This is not the place you'll normally be going for media. Normally you will be loading it directly from the post or the page, whatever it is that you're working on. But sometimes you can come in here and do it this way if it's necessary for some reason. And so you can add new things here. You can come to the special upload screen for it, or you can search for media within this. We have a whole lot on there right now. That's because we have duplicates from different video uploads. We won't typically have that many media items in there, and we'll clean those up here once we are toward the finish line. We'll do a search for all the duplicates and then merge them into one, and we'll get down to a more reasonable number. But most of the time you won't be doing it here. But if there's ever a reason that you think you need to, you can certainly come here and look through all your images, and you can look at them either view of these right here. We have forms over here, and I'm not even sure on this site right now. I don't think we have any forms being used. So if it doesn't turn out we're actually going to be using forms on the website, we'll temporarily deactivate the forms. We have forms that are associated with Zeit, but nothing that is specific to the nothing that is outside of that, nothing that we've created on our own here, just the forms that are created by default with Zeit. So we won't worry about that too much right now since that's not being utilized. We come down to pages, and then these are there aren't really very many actual literal pages on the website. Most of these things are created in other ways. So across the top here, then you have these as being automatically generated pages. So articles are just all the articles from the website, and then when you're coming to football, that's just all the football articles from the website. And you'll see that it has category up here as a part of its URL. That means that it's not really a page that's been created specifically to exist in that way. It's just automatically generated. So for the most part, you're not really ever going to need to be changing these. If you ever need to create a page that's just a separate thing with just content, I do want you to know how to do that though. So make a page title, just like before. You enter the title, some new page, and then you have a choice here as to whether or not you want to show the header title. You can make it so that's hidden. So for instance, on the home page, you wouldn't want to have a header title. And some other times you don't need to be able to have that title at the top. But most of the time you're going to have that checked as yes. As you want to add things to the page, you have this little button over here that says Add Page Section. And then the page section title isn't really used on the site. It's just a way to organize these things here. So it's not going to be a header within the text or anything like that. We have some title for the section. Everything down here then works just like what the post did. This is an identical section down here. Something you do want to keep in mind though is that sometimes you're going to be, with these page sections, having a different color in the background, and so then you might end up wanting to have some white text. And so we're going to have some text here to work with, and use some bad grammar with having a with at the end there. There's this formats button here, and then you can make it be white text. And I'm just going to do part of it white text so you can tell the difference when we're doing this part in a moment. We go over here to the background. These tabs are fairly intuitive. If you want a background image, then you can set it here. In addition to having a background image, then you get to choose whether it's fixed or not, and you can change kind of where it's the center point of it is by going from 0 to 100 for horizontal or vertical. You can just experiment with that if you don't find it being right in the first place. You can have a background color, and it can be totally opaque, but then you can also make it so that it is translucent, and then that can overlay the image that's there. For the spacing, you generally want padding. The only time you don't want padding is if you are having a slider or something else that you want to fill the entirety of the width of the page. So normally you're going to say yes on padding. You can make it extra tall or extra short or extra narrow, and you can change the width of this to being any of these amounts here, and then if you have them consecutively, then you can make it so that then they line up in rows. So if you have a 50% next to 50%, then they'll line up as a row. Right now you have to set the height of these, and that's generally going to be something that is done experimentally. Just try out a number and see how it falls, and so it would be in the range normally of 400 to 800 pixels, but soon we're going to have this set up where then you don't even have to worry about that at all, and it will do that automatically. We're just going to leave this at 100% for right now though. In advanced, you have a couple other options, but they're advanced, so you don't normally need to worry about them. We're going to click preview, and this should all show up on the page appropriately. And we have some text to work with here, and so we have that background image just like we set it to be, and we think, no, that doesn't look quite right. We'll go back over here and we'll say, let's make that extra tall. That text should probably be centered, right? And now it's centered. We're going to see how it works now. And now it's starting to look a little bit better. We think we need that to be a little bit bigger on the text, so we might want to make it be a header. And then we try that out, and you keep on working until you get it right. Now these posts, this is not like a post where it will show up at places on the site automatically. It is a page on its own. It won't show up under articles or anything like that. So if you're adding a page, it's for some sort of static content, not for something that you're wanting to show up in a lot of different places. You keep on adding more page sections here, and add as many as you want. You can easily rearrange them as you need to, and it's a fairly simple system. Most of these other things down here are not things you really need to be concerned about right now. And then everything over here on the right side with publishing functions in the same way. We're just going to move this to the trash for right now. We will show you here in just a bit how to make it so that people can access these pages from the website, and that'll be through the menus probably, but it could be anywhere else that you link to it, I suppose. But most of the time, if you're adding a new page, you're going to end up wanting to have it in your menu structure somewhere. We don't worry about this Zype section here. That won't be there at all when this is launched. We won't have you worry about that. We don't have comments enabled right now, so there's nothing to worry about there. And I don't think that we're using foo galleries in any way on the website right now. Nope, so we're not going to cover that right now. We'll probably just get rid of that before launch. Don't need to worry about bulk WP. We do need to look at Zype video category list. This is what is happening here on the videos page. So we have these different sections here: docuseries, shows, documentaries, schools, and sports. And this is all being controlled through Zype video category list. And let's just look inside one of these first, so that we can see what's going on inside of here. It's relatively simple. I don't even know if we have something under advanced. Oh, I guess we have a custom video link is what we have as the option. So we have a category image, and I'll get rid of that for a moment. Nothing's live because I haven't clicked update. So if you want to change out that image, you simply click add image, and then now we have a new image for that category. And if I were to update this, that would replace this image right here. Then you have a category name, whatever you want that to be called. And we already have docuseries up here. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, I suppose. That's how this says docuseries in that spot there. But you can change the name of this, and so then if you wanted to change it to something else, the Pursuit of Greatness here at the end, then you could do that, and it would change the title. The video category link, these are the different categories of videos that we have, and so then we're wanting this to be the generic Pursuit category. It could be that you decide you want to be linking that to something else. You can simply search for any of these, and then they will show up there, and you can choose where it is connected to. These are in the order right now that we're wanting them, but at any time you could rearrange them. You don't have to close that. You can just leave it like that, and that works fine too. None of this is live on the website right now, though. Just rearranging for this moment for demonstration purposes. And then we can add a new one down here, add the image like we did before, and then give it a category name, new name, category link, and we're wanting something about football, and so we're going to say it's the River Parish Football Show. It's not, but if we clicked update, then all those things would show up live on the site. Over here, then where we started off at, you can rearrange these. See how it has the 4-arrowed symbol there as you're hovering over? That means you can just click and drag all these things wherever you want them to go, but we're going to leave them as they are right now. If you ever want to add a new one, you can do so. You give it the title for the general section of things right up here, and then you add the individual subcategories within that here. And we're not going to keep that right now, though, because we don't need any other category lists at this time, I don't believe. The icegram is the thing that shows up here at the top. And most of the time, if you're wanting to make adjustments to that, it's going to get a little bit awkward, so it's probably best just to ask us, and we'd be happy to help out with that. So we're going to skip that for right now. It's not too urgent that you all would know how to use that. We have some featured items here. These show up on the home page, And these featured items are the shows that are over here. And so then we have the Pursuit U High, the Pursuit Mount Carmel, or maybe it's Carmel, I don't know how you all pronounce it down there. And then we have South Louisiana Football. I'll click edit on one of these so you can see how it works. You have the name up here, of course, and we're not using the short description anymore, I don't think, anywhere, so we don't have anything filled in there right now. You have the link to the content right here. It could be any link to any place you want it to go. And then you have a featured image over here, just like we used on the other. We don't really need these categories. Nothing else on here is really going to be too relevant to us. And so that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. And then you can add as many of these as you want. As you add them, then they'll show up in this list longer and longer and longer. And you can click and drag to rearrange them just like before. We have Zype videos down here, and these are all the Zype videos that are on Zype.com as well. But then they've been imported here onto our website. And so you could make changes here, but that would not be a good idea, because if you make changes to the Zype videos as they show up on here, then that will get overwritten the next time that it syncs with the Zype website. And so none of the changes you make here would be effective. That's not something you really want to try to be doing. So you shouldn't really ever make changes here. We'll hide this before launch. If somehow you ever do stumble upon this page, because it's still technically possible to get there even when we hide it, then don't make any changes to it. You don't want to make adjustments to those videos in that way. It's all done through Zype. Genesis down here, we have some general settings you don't need to worry about. In appearance, then we do have a couple of things we need to look at. They are widgets and menus. For widgets, then this is controlling everything in the header and the footer and the home page. So it's quite a bit that it's controlling. Most of our websites, we just have it be header and footer. On this website, it's a little different, so we're going to go for the whole page being controlled from these widgets. For the most part, these names make sense. A couple of them need a little bit of clarification. We have several different header areas, and right now we are using all three of those on Varsity Sports Now and on the Louisiana Varsity Sports page. And then as you look inside here, you can see what they are because they have the words there that go along with them. So then this says VSN on-demand sample, and then that's what it says there as well. If you want to make changes to that text, you can do so here. With all these widgets, then this is a little more advanced control than what we normally have. On most of our websites, then we have it where these widgets, they are what they are, and you can't really make any adjustments to their sizing, positioning, and so forth. On this one, you can. And so then we have the opportunity to control the column width, how much of the page it takes up. For the header things, you don't want to experiment with that too much. It's a little bit too tight, and so it's sensitive. You probably want to keep it basically where it is, but you can adjust that if you want to. You also have options down here for the alignment of the text. You have choices on whether it's visible on all pages or only on some pages. You have options for background colors and for some link colors and other things of that nature, and a few more advanced settings. You don't want to change those things most of the time, but having that opportunity to control it in some way gives you a little more flexibility than you would have otherwise. For the headers, probably don't want to change it too much. For some of the other parts on the home page, then you really might want to make adjustments to that in the future. Down here, we do have a menu over here, and then you don't control the menu itself from here, though. You only choose what menu shows up in that spot. You come down here to the home sections, and they all say home, and so it's easy enough to understand what we have going on there. So we have Revolution Slider, and you can see here it takes up 2/3 of the width of the page. And then you look here and you can say, not that you can instantly calculate it mathematically, but you understand, oh, that takes up about 2/3 of the page. Which means that our next sections that we want to be over to the right of that need to be 1/3 of the page to match up. So a little bit of math, not too hard though. So we have Revolution Slider here. You're probably not going to want to change that too often. And then we have a list from the pods here that's going to be showing right now it just shows a generic video, but we're going to have that being set up to show a featured live game that we want to have in that spot, or it could be something else that's a past game that's already been played. Then beneath it we have these featured items like we showed before. They're already set up here to be showing up from that. It's the featured items list. If you ever wanted to change the title, though, you could still change that. There's not much else you'd probably want to change in that spot. When we get down to the middle section, then we have a list of live streaming games on demand, and then none of those are things you actually want to be looking at just yet, though. They're not actually live videos at this moment. They're just regular videos. We'll make sure that those are updated once we have live games that we're wanting to have displayed on the site. And then we have our national news section here. And this is being taken from all categories right now. You could make it into a specific category if we want to just make a national news category for that. Quite a few little changes you could make regarding the featured image and what shows up underneath it, whether or not you want the post title to show or not, read more, and so forth. You can play with those if you want to. Right now it's set up the way that it has been desired to look and all, but you could certainly make adjustments if that is the way you'd like to approach it. Down at the bottom, then we have the navigation menu that's for local coverage. Again, you don't control the menu itself from the widgets, but you can see where it shows up here. And then you can also have the list of the articles that are Louisiana-specific articles. And then right now that's all that we have, but eventually there will be other states that are along here. And so then if you're wanting to add a section for Alabama, then you'd say, oh, this is the Genesis featured posts. And you could come up here and then you'd find that, and you can click and drag it over into its spot beneath the Louisiana there. And so then you could say these are Alabama stories, and then you find the category. We don't have an Alabama category, so we'll just pick another one for now. And you make settings that match up with this for the most part is probably what you're going to want to do. And if you just make sure that those match, then you should be good to go. Right now we even have a clone tool, so you could actually clone it. We probably won't keep that clone tool though, so don't grow to rely on that. For the footer, we have footer 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think we go all the way to 4 right now, but you have another option there if you need to. A couple of those are menus. Another one here is get the free week of VSN. You can make adjustments to the text there for anything that shows up in the footer. If you want to add more visual editor ones, those are the easiest things to be using down in there. They work pretty seamlessly. If you add other widgets, they might or might not work well. And you can still make the same adjustments with the width and background color and so forth there within those, just like on the other widgets. You have a lot of widget options over here on the left-hand side, and some of them work really naturally and perfectly with our website, and others do not. And so if there's something you want to use from over there and it works well, that's wonderful. And then if it's something that you do not find to work too well, then you might consider approaching it in a different way. Or it might be that it's something that you need our help with, and you can check in with us and we can provide some guidance on how to approach that. You can click Manage with Live Preview on any of these things, and so if you don't want to make it live on the site as you're going, then you can do all these same basic things through that Live Preview. And so then you can go into Widgets over here, and you can make those same sort of changes, add a widget, and it works just the same as the other, different formatting, not where we normally make our changes, but you could make your changes there and see them live instead. Up to you how you want to approach that. They do the same thing, and it's just a matter of whether you want to see the live preview or whether you want to make the changes and just live with them. Over here we have menus, and then we have I guess we have 4 menus, but really just 3. So then we have our social menu. These are the social icons linked to the pages that are for VSN. We have our local prep menu, and that's the one that shows up at the bottom over here with NOLA Catholic League and River Parish. Probably be more appropriately named Louisiana. No, that's right, no, because it's going to be other schools eventually too. So you have your different levels of menu items here. This is your main menu item here, and it's Louisiana Schools. That's our top level thing right there. I shouldn't have clicked on that right then. And so then if you wanted to add an Alabama menu item, then you could make the link for that as well. And then that could either be done if it's a specific page or post, then it could be from over here, but it might also be a custom link. And so it might be to VSN Louisiana. I can't think right now if that's the exact website or not. But then, yeah, in this case, I guess it'd be Alabama, huh? And then you can have the name be Alabama, and you add that to the menu. It shows up down here. If we save this, and we'll just save it here for a moment, then you can see over here that it shows up at the bottom. Looks just like the Louisiana one. But then you also have children of this, and so then we'll just make a random child for right now, just so we can show that this is how this works. And then you just drag it over. That's all there is to it to make it a child. And anything you drag over is going to show up as those blue ones there, so it'll categorize it into a district. And then if you have another one beneath that, then it's going to show up at that next level as these little guys here that are the buttons. And that's how you control that menu there. But all of the menus function in that same basic way as far as parent and children, that then as you want submenus and such, then it's going to be, and I don't think any of these have submenus. I guess these ones do up here. A couple of them do. So they're all going to work in the same way, though, of dragging over to the left. If you ever want to change it, you can drag in whatever direction you need to drag to get it to work for you. Click Save, and it's live on the website. We're not going to do that right now, of course. We're going to look over here at the Sports/States combo menu, and you can see that we have everything that shows up here live on the site. Then that is what's on here. And so you just drag over to the left. These are mostly categories. You can see over here we have the categories list over here, and you could pull from any of these things to be able to link to where you want to link, to a specific Zeit video, to a Zeit category, to a post, to a page, whatever it is. You can click and then add to the menu, and then it's there. Now, in addition to that, though, of course, you can do the custom links like we said, and that means you could link to anywhere on the site or anywhere outside of the site. When you're inside one of these, if you're wanting to link to an outside website, then right now you see like there's no option for that. But the screen options thing, again at the top, well, we've got to add that in there, and it's link target. On yours, hopefully, it will already be activated. On mine, it was not. You can click Open Link in New Tab. If you ever forget, though, ask us and we'll be happy to help. Click Save, everything's saved, and then it becomes live on the website. We have plugins over here. You don't need to really worry about plugins too much. If there's something new that you want to add to the site, some new functionality, let us know. We normally know plugins pretty well to know whether what the best options are for accomplishing what you're trying to do. For users, then you will need to know how to use this. We have our users that are already on the site, and these are also what we're using for our authors for posts. And so if you need to add a new author, you would do it through this as well. But if you want to add a new admin for the site, then you would want to do it here as well. And so you click Add New, and you have the username. You have to make up some username. It can just be their name. It can be simple. It can be complex. It doesn't really matter on the username part of it too much. So we're going to say Kenny. You have to have an email. It should be a valid email, because if you ever need to reset the password, then it's going to be a whole lot easier if you have an email address that can actually receive that email about resetting the password. So we're going to set this as mine. That's actually already been used, though, on a different account, but we'll keep it there for now. First name, last name. If it's going to be an author on the website, if it's going to be used as an author on the website, then you definitely need to have those there. If you're not going to use it as that, it's not required. Definitely don't need to put website in there. Not something you typically fill out. For the password, if you click Show Password, this is the one that's there by default. And it's a long, complicated password. And you don't have to necessarily have it quite as complicated as that, but what we don't want is password or anything of that nature. It says it's very weak, and that's a problem. And then we want to get it to at least medium. If it gets up to strong, that's wonderful. And I don't think we have a very strong on here, do we? No, I don't think we have a very strong. But strong is wonderful if you can get it up to there, but at least medium. We want to protect the website, and if you have a weak password, it makes it more likely that it will be hacked, and it's a big pain for everybody. We have a backup of the site, and we're regularly checking to see if there are any security problems, but it's a whole lot easier if it never happens. Choose whether or not to send the user a notification about them having a new account, and then you choose the role down here. The roles that are options for this site that matter are author and administrator. I don't think you have a reason to really be anything else aside from those right now. It might be that sometime in the future we tell you we want people to be editors instead, but right now, just if you want somebody to be able to control a bunch of things on the site, then be an administrator. If you want them to only be someone that you're using to mark as an author for the story is being written, then make it an author. You click Add New, and they are there. If you ever want to get rid of a user, then under All Users, you can click Delete. If you ever want to make changes, like say a password change, you can click Edit. You have some different color schemes you can choose as well. A bunch of other fields that you can fill out. Most of them are not terribly useful on this website right now, so you don't need to be too concerned with them. Aren't any tools that we need to worry about. Settings are not things that really matter for you all right now. Custom fields don't matter. SEO, then you might want to explore this some. There's some broad SEO things that you might want to be able to control. For the most part, though, you can just ask us for help for knowing how to implement SEO changes on the website. And FooBox is just to make it so we have a light box when you click on an image. Don't need to worry about this. There is slider revolution. The only slider we have on the website, though, is one that is set pretty definitely as it is. And so if you want to make changes, you're probably better off asking us. And we're going to talk about Snap Auto Poster some other day, not right now. And I don't think that we're using any maps on the website right now. If you ever need to use the maps, then the process is mostly intuitive. You add a location, and then you add a map, and you make sure that the locations are on the map. But I don't think that's going to be coming up too often in what you all are doing. So that covers most of the way that Varsity Sports Network website works. The rest of Varsity Sports Now, rather. And then we do need to cover it some other time, how to make sure that site things are being done correctly. I think right now that's fairly well understood, but I would still like to have a training video out there so that if you have any new people coming on to your team, they understand how to use that easily as well. Everything about how the videos show up on the site is controlled by the Zype end of things. So then if there's any problem with that, then the place to start is make sure that you understand how to use Zype. And then if you know that it's being used correctly and it's still not showing up correctly on the website, then contact us and we'll figure out what's going on our end to prevent that from happening appropriately. If you have more questions about this Prep Sports website, though, let us know, and we will be happy to help you out through any problems that you have. And then if we have a process that's not working well, we can adjust it. If there's just a misunderstanding, we'll clarify it. And if there's new functionality that we need on the website, then for the most part, we're going to be happy to oblige and get that into place.